Welcome to episode 7 of the Monsters of Geek podcast. You have the World Monsters of Geek Tag Team Champions this evening. It is I, the editor-in-chief of monstersofgeek.com, Mr. Eric Collier, my tag team champion partner, the one, the only, also the world heavyweight champion of Monsters of Geek, the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. Jared Collins. Jared, how are you, man?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Just adjusting the volume here. All right. Well, we should be here too long this evening. We're recording this on late night Easter Sunday, so hope everybody had a great Easter out there. Jared, what have you been up to so far? I mean, what have you been up to as far as geeky stuff this week?
Just finished watching Daredevil.
I'm on about halfway through episode 7 right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know the reviews aren't as great as the first season, but I think it may be a better all-around season. I've really, I got about 2 episodes in, and some of the Punisher stuff kicked in, and then it really hooked me. And then, then Elektra shows up, and there's a lot of it goes pretty deep there. There's just a lot of content that they cover.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, and basically what we're going to talk about on the show this week is I saw Superman Batman. Of course, Jared's going to take him 8 months to see it, so because he's the only man alive that gets disc from Netflix. Do you get Blu-rays at least?
Yeah, most of the time.
Okay, so he did upgrade to the Blu-ray disc. Okay, well
that came standard, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, man, I was trying to give you some props for being the last man to actually get physical discs through Netflix.
I know there's a few. You can't single me out. There may be a handful of 10 people that still get the disc.
There you go, and you're one of the 10. You're one of the unicorns of digital media for at least Netflix. We're going to talk about Superman versus Batman: Dawn of Justice a little bit, and also WrestleMania and NXT Takeover preview. But talking about Daredevil, said that they do a lot of stuff, and they're throwing a lot at you at a time, but it seems very coherent when they throw it at you. Like, it's very structured, and it doesn't seem like they're throwing too much at you. Putting that up against Superman Batman, and I'm not going to talk about that now, but it seems like those showrunners do a really good job of saying, hey, we're going to do the Punisher, and then we're going to do Elektra, and then we'll throw in whatever's passed. I'm, like I said, episode 7. Jared, just like you said, it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of balancing that out.
Hey, I was thinking, you could have spent one whole season just with the Punisher. You didn't have to throw in Elektra, which, they did, but they found a way to work everything into it. It's not like it's overwhelming with one thing or another. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and haven't been disappointed. I did miss part of one episode. I was really tired and fell asleep and in and out of it. But other than that, I think it's been an amazing season.
Yeah, it's been really good. Me and Shauna both enjoyed the first season immensely, and definitely enjoying the second season. And I love what they did with the Punisher. Shauna's new to the Punisher, so she had a lot of questions about who he is and what he kind of stands for. And the Punisher is a character that is obviously very violent. Doesn't do. She asked how his heroes kind of handle it. And I said, well, they only team up with him, make sure they don't to keep the body count low. Is basically why they usually team up with the Punisher. He's very much the antithesis of a anti-hero, but he has a reason to do it. We're in episode 7. They're kind of doing the jury process. They're trying to choose a jury, and half of them is like, he's a maniac. He needs to be thrown in jail, and then another half's like, I'm just glad that he's taking all the drug dealers and the child abductors off the street. Something that the cops won't do. So he's a very polarizing character, and I think they're doing a really good job of showing that. And he's very, very sympathetic. I thought they were writing him very sympathetic. Now, coming in, me and you knew who the Punisher was, so we, I guess, kind of have a sympathetic view of him because we knew his past. But Shauna didn't really know who he was, and he's very violent. That's where kind of the question was: is he a good guy? He's a bad guy. Frank Castle is at the heart of it a good guy. He just tends to do it the bad guy way.
Yeah, he's got his own thoughts about everything, and which explained pretty early on. I think it's episode maybe 5 when him and Daredevil are there together, and he says, "What you do isn't permanent." He's like, you take them off the street, they get released, they're back out in a couple months. What I'm doing, he's like, I'm taking care of the problem. And that's his whole thought process. He wants to eliminate the problem so that they don't pop up again.
Yeah, the Punisher. I mean, the Punisher is very. If Batman decided to use guns, I mean
Yeah,
that's basically what the Punisher is, and he is just like you said. He takes care of the problem, and he sees Daredevil. It's almost kind of this. He does good, but he doesn't go far enough. He's kind of a wussy boy because he won't do what's needed to completely take him off the streets. Same can be said for Batman and some of his stuff. Is Batman, if he became super violent, decided to take him off the streets instead of being thrown in jail and they're out. They break out or they're out within, at least in Daredevil in the Marvel universe, they're released from jail, real jail usually. So Jerry, you bring up a good point. It's just two people that I think that you can't. It's two superheroes, two heroes doing good things, just very differently. And I think that it's a it's a great way of kind of showing both dynamics without painting one completely right. Because both of them does things right, both of them does things wrong. It's just two superheroes that kind of have different methods.
And it's kind of a play on our society. Everybody has their own thoughts and views, and you think about the death penalty and all this other stuff. You have those people that think everybody, they do these bad things, they need to be taken care of, and then there's these other people, they need to be treated a certain way, and they have their human rights and all this, and they do get out, and so you kind of play on both sides there, and everybody's going to side with one of those, unless you're a comic book fan, then you're rooting for both of them. But a lot of people you'll find kind of splitting, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Punisher, if he's going to get his own series, if he'll come back for the Defenders or show up in Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or whatever he does. But I've really enjoyed him, and the actor playing him has done a terrific job. Something that just putting him on the big screen, that hadn't come across in the movies before. So
he does. I mean, I think he plays Daredevil obviously very well, but he plays Matt Murdock very well. And Matt Murdock, you talk about kind of Batman and Matt Murdock are kind of, for lack of a better term, I guess you could say Daredevil's, but Marvel's Batman, poor Batman, I guess, to a certain extent. Matt Murdock is, unlike Bruce Wayne, which is his two personas are very much separate. You got Bruce Wayne, you got Batman. Very much, they don't really mingle very often. You can almost say that Bruce Wayne is the secret identity of Batman. Basically,
right.
Batman takes more of precedent in that kind of relationship, on that kind of dichotomy, I guess. While Daredevil's very much Matt Murdock. Like Matt Murdock is,
he's a defender of the people, and so
exactly.
is Daredevil. Yeah,
and he very much brings what Matt Murdock believes in the courtroom is the same way Matt Murdock believes as Daredevil. What bugs Matt Murdock as a lawyer bugs Matt Murdock as Daredevil. So it's very much, Matt Murdock in a suit in the courtroom versus Matt, is the same as Matt Murdock running around in red pajamas. And I think that's where he does a really good job of playing, not just playing Matt Murdock and playing Daredevil, but he's playing Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
I think he does a great job with it.
One of my high points of this season, and it's just one small little thing, and which it's not really a spoiler, but there's I think it may be the last episode. The last episode of last season. He got his suit, and it's either I think it's the last episode this season or the one before, and he gets his new weapons. He gets the baton connected with the wire or rope or cool. Whatever, and it shows the various ways you can use it. And when that guy pulled it out, and he's like, well, what's this? And he pulls it out of the box and shows him, hands it to him, and pulls it apart. I was like, oh man! And then just seeing that in action, I was like, oh, it's just like it's just like the comic.
Yeah,
It,
because right now he's just got the Billy stick. He just got the Billy stick like this
yeah,
season.
and
I don't know if
no,
he had it last season or not.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think he used it
Okay.
last season either. But seeing him, I've seen him throw around the Billy sticks and hit people. But then when, uh, the iconic cover of him jumping off the side of the building with the rope whipping around and one Billy stick coming at the screen or whatever, and then seeing it in action, I was like, there's nothing else. I don't know if there's anything else they could do to improve that costume, unless eventually they pop out with yellow Daredevil or do something like that
I
for
think the only thing that they
fun.
could do that would make sense, because I don't know if you could do yellow Daredevil at this point, but uh, talk about going from
Maybe he's
color
fighting
I
crime
like
dude.
that suit, but I can understand why he went with just a straight red after a while. I think they could do. In
Yeah,
the '90s, he had that body armor that he did, which was basically red and gray. I think was the
yeah,
color scheme. Had a little bit different design. To be quite honest, this one kind of looks like that, just red. I mean, that's
yeah.
because when I look at because they've
It's
done some
got a
tweaking to it
there's a
going into
lot of
this
body
season.
armor
Yeah,
parts.
exactly. More body armor, and it's very reminiscent of if you combine the old red kind of just cloth suit with that 1990s kind of armor he had. It's very reminiscent. You kind of put them together, and I'm cool.
Yeah, from far away it does look like the um, just a red suit, but when you get up closer, there's that body armor part to it. So yeah, it's very cool.
I mean,
I think of it.
it's very descriptive.
Oh yeah, except he doesn't have the DD on the chest, which that might end up next season since he has fully adopted the Daredevil persona, um, and he's got the horn. So the guy that makes his armor might eventually build that into it. I could see if fighting one time something spills on Daredevil or something happens and the armor turns yellow or gets painted that color. It might be just for an episode or something, but I could see a lot of people geeking out over that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yellow. It'd be cool if it did a yellow. I mean,
Yeah,
I would geek out
just like
because that's when
one
it's done right. Like it looks really cool, but
yeah, just one episode, or just one image of it. You don't have to leave it there long. I could just see people really getting behind that, though. Just giving nods to all these different parts of the comic.
so both of us digging Daredevil. Hopefully we'll finish it this week. We'll probably watch a couple episodes tonight and knock them out. But I almost don't want it to end, like because the last one ended and you're just like, man, I gotta wait for like another year or whatever it takes to get it out.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the way I feel. I finished it and I was like, because I was watching like in one episode or two episodes at a time, and it's just like you only get 2 hours of a movie, or maybe three, depending on like if you're watching Lord of the Rings, but this you've got 13 hours almost to sit there and enjoy. And then when it's over, it is kind of like a letdown. You're like, oh, what am I going to go into next? So maybe they'll start spacing out stuff a little closer. It'd be nice to see the Luke Cage, coming in, 2 months instead of, 6 months away.
right.
But, we'll see. I think with these becoming a big hit on Netflix, we may see some more of those series pop up, and I think every fan out there, that's something they're hoping for.
Well, Iron Fist has already been confirmed. Second season of Jessica Jones has already been confirmed, and of course the Defenders. I don't see that they're doing a Daredevil season 3 yet before the Defenders. I think they're doing Luke Cage and then Iron Fist, and then into the well,
Jessica
maybe
Jones
I think it's
season
maybe Luke
two.
Cage, maybe Daredevil season 3, and then something in between, and then Iron Fist and the Defenders.
Yeah,
So
I would say season three would probably come out before the Defenders.
because it seems like they're doing Daredevil, another show in between, Daredevil, another show in between. And obviously that's a great shooting schedule because you can be shooting one while the other one's ending.
Right, and I think right now they're going to, of course, we've got Luke Cage, which I think there's a link up. There's an after shot of it's supposed to. I don't think it plays right after Daredevil's over, but I guess if you get it on Blu-ray or whatever, that's what'll happen. There was a link, and it's just like a minute of to preview the Luke Cage, and it takes place right after the very end of Jessica Jones ended. I haven't been able to watch that yet, but I'm gonna try to. But anyway, it's like it. I think we got Daredevil. Now we're going to get Luke Cage, and then we're going to go back to Jessica Jones, and we might get one more in before they do another Daredevil. Maybe they'll do Iron Fist, which I think they're supposed to start shooting soon, since they've got I think pretty much the whole
I
cast.
think they're in pre-production right now, or casting. I think they already cast. So one of the guys from Game of Thrones, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but one of the guys from Game of Thrones is playing Danny Rand. Last time I checked, it was listed in pre-production. So
yeah,
they got a little bit before they have to even put that out. So
yeah, but I think what is it? March. So next March you'll probably get Jessica Jones season 2. So maybe 6 months after that we'll get Daredevil or Iron Fist 1. You kind of want to try to backlog them just so you do have this massive amount of content you can watch. But it's hard to do that when they're putting out such quality product.
Yeah, and like I said, there's always like you said, there's always a chance for a Punisher series, and they've kind of bounced that around a little bit. I don't know how. I mean, they could do it. The Punisher is kind of a one-note type of guy. I mean, he just goes after gangs and mobs. So I don't know how you could really turn that in. I think he's a very much a good supporting character. I think they should keep him like that, at least for the time being. Yeah, we're both digging Daredevil, so go check it out. If you don't have Netflix, what are you doing? Go get it and just to watch Daredevil. And if you want, Blu-ray disc, I mean, they still offer that. So you can get it and play some. What I've been into lately, nothing much, to be quite honest. I'm gonna pull Joe here. Basically, I've been looking at more, trying to import some Super Nintendo games. Me and Jared's talked about some of the games that didn't get released over here. You need to get them repro, or sometimes you can get them really cheap through eBay and be able to import them. My Retron 5 plays imports, and you can actually download fan translations for games. So I gotta get a list of fan translations. So if it's an RPG or something, it's been translated by the fans, and you can download it and actually read what's going on. So I've been looking at a couple different ones there, kind of doing some research. Been looking at like just some of the top Nintendo or Super Nintendo games, and some of them are actually, I think probably about 25% of those lists are imports, and some just cool side scrollers and stuff like that I've kind of discovered over the past week. So hopefully I can save some money up and be able to get bring some of those over. They look pretty interesting. Crazy Japanese sense of humor and crazy Japanese enemies, and it's just some of those games just look absolutely crazy. There is a Jared, I was going to bring up. There's a survival horror game. I can't remember the name of the game, or I can't pronounce it. Both of them, to be quite honest. It's basically like a side-scrolling version of Resident Evil, but it's not Resident Evil. It's called, I think it's English translation is like King of Demons or something like that. And you're basically this guy, and you just it's a side scroller, and it looks fantastic. Like, it looks crazy good. So I want to try hunt down that game because it's pretty neat looking for a 16-bit kind of horror game. From what I understand, it's one of the if not one of the only, minus I think Clock Tower, horror games on the Super Nintendo. So I'll shoot you the link and let you look at it, but it's pretty neat looking.
Did Slaughterhouse, you remember that game? Did it come out on Super Nintendo, or was that Sega only?
That's Sega only. At least, no, I'm sorry. It came out on 2 systems. It came out on TurboGrafx first.
Yeah, that's right.
And then arcade first, then TurboGrafx, and then got a Sega port.
Yeah, I remember that now.
All those are way too expensive right now anyway. So, and I've only seen Slaughterhouse for the Genesis maybe once, like in a store. Again, super expensive, so it's a little bit hard to get a hold of.
I played it a couple times, or not the original. I think it was 2 or 3. I think you could rent, and I played it a couple times, and it's a pretty decent game. I think a lot of people really enjoyed the originals. I don't know about the remake or the sequel or whatever that they put on the next gen systems.
Here's a fun fact for you: they actually released it in Japan for the Famicom, so it was actually a Nintendo game, and it was more like cutesy kind of Jason ripoff dude.
Yeah.
they say it's one of the best platformers on the whole system. That it's in it. I think it was released a little bit later in the lifetime or in the lifespan of that system, so it's really pushing the hardware. I've watched a couple not playthroughs, but I've just some screen capture stuff, and it does look pretty cool. It's really weird going from the ones that we've seen are the big kind of Jason muscular guy, and this guy's like that big, and just like a little miniature version of him, which is kind of cool. I don't think it came over here because it had a lot of religious imagery in it, and Nintendo, at least Nintendo of America, was very hardcore about religion of any sort being in their games. That's why a lot of the the wisdom tree ones, the Christian, the spiritual warfare and some of that stuff wasn't licensed by Nintendo. That they basically was bootleg copies that could be played on Nintendo because they wouldn't license them. So there's your fun fact of the day. Other than that, I know we're gonna talk about some wrestling, so we'll talk about it now a little bit. I've actually been watching some of the Invasion angle, some of the pay-per-views. So I went back to when the first pay-per-view was, which was, I believe it. Well, I didn't go all the way back because I think it started with Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle, which I've seen that match 1,000 times. It's awesome. I started with Invasion of 2001, I believe is when they did it. The Invasion pay-per-view. Thing about it is, you think that Angle's really long. Because
it only lasted a couple months.
Yeah, it wasn't very long at all. I mean, the Raws were really good. I remember watching some Raws, and some of the Raws were actually better than some of the pay-per-views. But I think I'm on just finished SummerSlam. I think Unforgiven, which would be September. I've got one in October, and then Survivor Series in November when it ended. So I just had never watched in those in succession before. There's some decent matches on there. It's not great. Some of the talent there, because Eddie Guerrero wasn't there. Chris Benoit wasn't there. Some of the, obviously, Hogan, Hall, Nash, Goldberg, all those guys wasn't in it. So it is kind of B players from WCW. But it's interesting to see some of those matches. Some of those were actually pretty good. They're on the verge of that Paul Heyman booking from like 02 to 05-ish, 06-ish, where matches was just spectacular. I mean, there's just really good stuff there. So it's been interesting. It's nothing great, but there's some pretty decent matches on there.
Yeah, during that run, even those B players, a lot of those were your best workers at the time. Hall, Nash, and Hogan, they were way past their prime. They're just main event draws. But when you look at the solid matches, it was a lot of those people that came up underneath. And,
well, the issue that you have is like you have guys like Booker and DDP and Canyon. All those guys could work,
but they didn't know how to promote them.
What was that?
They didn't know how to promote them or how to book them.
They had some issues there, but a lot of the guys, like I'll be quite honest, like the people that came in, some of those guys got sent right straight down to OVW. Like he's talking about like Stasiak. Well, Stasiak was there. Stasiak was there in WB before. He's still terrible. You had like guys like Palumbo and Sean O'Hare, and you had some of those guys, and that's kind of the B players I'm talking about, like Booker and DDP, and those guys could work. At that point, they were A players, but it's just that you could see that roster was very thin without Hogan and Goldberg and Sting and Flair and those guys coming in as well. So some of those younger guys got kind of pushed aside, and that's where I think they lost a lot of people because they didn't know who they were, and they made Booker and DDP, sniveling cowards, which they really wasn't ever in WCW. I could see where the booking went away, but I think if they had those A-plus player as far as main event guys, I think it obviously would have been probably one of the best angles in wrestling history. But it is what it is. Vince wouldn't pay the money, and to be quite honest, if I was being paid 7 figures to stay at home, I probably wouldn't take the money. So can't blame either side for that, to be quite honest. Before we move into our main topics here, first thing is not a lot of releases. We had some pretty key video game releases for this week. We've got Killer Instinct Season 3 for the Xbox One and PC that comes out the 29th. These are releases for March 28th, or the week of March 20th. We got Major League Baseball Show 16, which I know Jared likes to play. So does Joe. I'm not a big baseball guy. And then you got RBI Baseball, which is a remake of the old, basically I guess not a remake, but a rebirth of RBI
Mhm.
baseball that used to be on the NES. Two very drastically different baseball games, and that may be one I actually check out. It's more of an arcade type flow to it. And then you've got a really good RPG. I'm usually not a PC or Mac player, but it's called Hyperlight Drifter. It's kind of an 8-bit kind of RPG. It looks really really cool, so hopefully I'll grab that and maybe play that on my Mac. But that's really it, man. I mean, no big comic book releases. Movies, we probably won't get another one till May when Captain America comes out. But very kind of skimpy on the releases. Jared, any of those kind of catch your eye?
The RBI baseball. I know the last one didn't get great reviews. I think it was like in the 4 and 5 range. Um, but if they work some of those issue out, it's something that's really been missing for a little while. And this year they're actually going to put out a physical disc as well. So there's a lot of people who don't download things, so they'll be able to pick that up as well. And it's a little cheaper price than MLB The Show, which I think the show, it always puts out amazing graphics and it's solid every year. But playing through 181 games,
Right.
that's hard. That's tough to do. I played, I think it was 12 or 13. I can't remember. It was the last one I picked up. And I've always debated about picking up one for the PS4, but, finding the time to devote to something like that is rough, even though, the gameplay's spectacular. But, it does kind of get boring after a while. So I think RBI, I looked at it again this year and hoping, I haven't saw the reviews of it yet, but hoping it gets better reviews than last year.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think Major League Baseball show is definitely a technical, and especially when it comes to gameplay for baseball fans, I think you know they do a great job with that. And our buddy Reed's a big baseball fan, and really the only writer that he writes a lot of stuff for us, but he explains the game so smoothly that baseball's boring to me until he talks about it because he just knows so much about it. I think he still plays. I think uh, he's still playing the old 2K series on 360, if I'm not mistaken, which wasn't great, but that's the only baseball game he has right now, if I'm not mistaken. Baseball's just boring to me. I like going to see it live. I've seen a couple games live, and I think it's cool, but I haven't been into a baseball game since like Triple Play '98. I think it was for PlayStation. One of the first games I ever bought with my own money. I played that game like crazy, and then after that, I just didn't care about baseball anymore. And I don't care about the show, to be quite honest. It's great. It looks gorgeous. Probably one of the best looking games you'll ever see on any system. I'm like you, Jed. It's a slow game. I much rather get NBA 2K or something that's much more fast paced. I'm much more into as far as the players and stuff, and be able to play a whole season. 82 games. I know it's still a lot, but it's just baseball's slow for me, and I haven't picked up a baseball game in ages. All right. Well, it looks like we'll get into the juice of the show here. I went and saw Superman versus Batman: Dawn of Justice Thursday night about 10 o'clock. We just got done with Soup Kitchen and decided to walk over and go ahead and go see that movie. This is probably going to have some spoilers in it. I'll try not to talk about the ending too much or anything like that. I know Jared, like I said, I know I'll make fun of him, but he's going to wait for Blu-ray, and I do recommend that as I get into my review, or go see a matinee. First of all, Shauna did not like it at all. She likes superhero movies. It lost her, I would say, probably 20, 30 minutes in. I was into it for the first hour. I actually really, don't turn off the podcast and don't unsubscribe, but I don't mind Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder, when it's an A to B film, like 300 was a point A, point B, plot. Watchmen up until the end was a point A to point B plot, and everything kind of laid out. And I thought he made those movies very well, especially for the tone that he kind of does. I put on Facebook, I said the best way to describe Superman versus Batman is strange. It's a splintered, incoherent mess of a plot. It's shot differently. It's cut really weird. I told a buddy at work. I said it's kind of like, those conspiracy theory boards where you have all these different roids, and they got, they got a tack and a yarn going here and yarn going there, and you don't really know where things start. You don't know where the middle is, and you definitely don't know where the end is. It's kind of like that. It's just a very incoherent kind of mess. There are good things about it. It's not a terrible movie. It's not Wolverine Origins by any stretch, but it's not Guardians of the Galaxy by any stretch. As far as my, worst superhero movie ever versus probably the best superhero movie, at least to this point. I like parts of it. I definitely recommend, if you're a big comic book fan, to go see it. Probably go to a matinee just to see, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman on the same screen. They get, and I'll talk about, Jerry, if you got any questions, but I'll talk about.
I've read spoilers, so it don't matter to me.
Okay. Ben Affleck's awesome, and me and Jerry kind of talked about this. Let's talk about the good things first, after I've rambled on about the bad things. Ben Affleck's awesome. Ben Affleck is probably the best Batman, and I say since Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was a really good Batman. He's better than anything that got played after Michael Keaton. I was never a huge Christian Bale fan as Batman. Just didn't like anything. He was okay. He wasn't the worst. He wasn't the best. He was okay. But he blows it out of the water. Him playing an older Batman is just, it's sensational. He's the gruffness. He has a little bit of that dark sense of humor to him. He plays Bruce Wayne, an older Bruce Wayne, he plays that very well. He doesn't play, it's kind of half playboy, half very, I guess, weathered kind of businessman. Batman, he's perfect. His voice is modulated, like Batman is supposed to have a voice, which I thought was really, really cool. It wasn't him trying to make up a voice. It was a modulated voice, and it works really well. Some people kind of made fun of it because they didn't really hear it in the previews. It works really well in the movie.
I always knew when they announced Ben Affleck, I was one of the supporters. I know there was a big outrage on the internet to be like, oh, why would you get him to play Batman? But, if you look, ever since Daredevil, he has been outstanding. I mean, Argo, The Town, I think The Town is probably my favorite movie that he's been in since then. But, he's just solid now. He found a way to dig deep, and, it's just these roles that fit his personality, and he's careful about what he does, but at the same time he pours himself into them. And just looking at him with the strong jaw, you knew he'd look great behind the cowl.
Yeah, he really works, and really the best part of the movie, in my personal opinion. I mean, he's just, and the suit looks awesome. I hated the Batman suit during Nolan. I mean, everything was good. I mean, Nolan's movies obviously aren't bad, but that suit was terrible. I mean, it just looked ridiculous. And then we're talking about a superhero suit here. So for it to look, all of these superhero suits look ridiculous. And they're supposed to kind of look ridiculous. I just didn't like it. I thought it was too streamlined. It didn't look like a superhero suit. I like the design of this suit. Got the big kind of wider bat on it. The little shorter ears for the cows. The cape was awesome, very functional looking. The cowl was very functional looking. I know Shauna didn't really like the costume. We had a little bit of discussion about, why the costume was so much better than last time's. But the suit was good. The guy playing Batman was great. I mean, that was definitely a highlight of the film.
Yeah.
As far as other things I like, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was awesome. She shows up as like a bit player. She's like at some galas, and Bruce Wayne kind of discovers who she is and stuff like that. When she shows up to battle, like she's a scene stealer. Like at that point, you're just like, man, I really wish this was a Wonder Woman movie. And I thought that was really well. That was really well written, really well paced. At the end they fight Doomsday, and there's this part where, and this is where the movie misses on so many things, like big things, but what gives me kind of hope for this kind of DC universe is that they get small things right. Just the casting of Affleck as Batman works, which may be obviously a big thing, but he gets the nuances of the character right, which is really nice. There's this part with when in Wonder Woman where Doomsday kind of hits her, and she slides backwards with her shield, and right before she jumps into battle, she gives this kind of smirk, and that just wraps up the character of Wonder Woman. She's a warrior. She likes to fight. She's never seen a fight she didn't like. And that just brought a big smile on my face because I was like, that's the character. Like they nailed that. And really kind of gets me kind of excited for the Wonder Woman movie.
Now, do you think they should have, because the rumor is the Wonder Woman movie is going to be a prequel. Do you wish they would have put out the Wonder Woman movie first, or is this a better way to introduce her to the DC universe?
I like the way they introduce her. I think part of the movie's issues is they're trying to lay a foundation. And I wrote about this in the piece that, before Marvel even hinted at the Avengers, they had all these key characters have their own movies. And I feel like that's where this movie really kind of struggles because they're trying to set something up. And I do believe that they should have done maybe another Superman movie, a Wonder Woman movie, and a Batman movie before they did Justice League.
Yeah, or even, if they just have put out a Wonder Woman movie and then at the end of it have her, showing up in Metropolis or whatever, to kind of start to go toward what this was trying to build and have her kind of be the linchpin of, all right, this is where we're heading. Because I think, just seeing her in the costume, I'm like, she looks like Wonder Woman. Seeing the trailer and stuff, it looks like she's really got the part down, and they really did an excellent job casting. So, she could have went out and just with the Wonder Woman name, and had a $700-800 million box office just with that movie. And so I kind of wish they would have introduced that, but they don't want to follow that Marvel. They don't want to follow what Marvel's doing in the way they've done it. They're like, at first they're like, oh, we're gonna do the Justice League first, and then that kind of, it turned out into Batman versus Superman. But if they would have done at least one movie, you can have Wonder Woman and show her origin, and then bring her into this Superman, Batman. And then you can have all these other individual characters in the follow-ups. You don't have to tell everybody's origin stories because a lot of people don't care about the origin stories. They already know it, or they just want to see these characters fight. So,
and I think that's that lays, like I said, lays the issue with this movie. The way they introduced Wonder Woman, I have no issue with. Like I said, that was one of the better planned out parts of the movie. Just a very good sequence. And I was kind of questioning Gal Gadot as far as her body structure. Wonder Woman in the comics is very much, she's an Amazonian. And, I remember one of my favorite Wonder Woman moments is in New Frontier is when she's dwarfing Superman because she is an Amazonian. She's big. She's kind of burly, still very elegant and beautiful, but just a big woman and, just a very imposing woman. And and I knew going in, I said, with that slide of frame, she had to nail the attitude. And that whole sequence just nails. Like when she first shows up and you see the line in the previews when Batman's like, or Superman's like, she with you? And Batman's like, no, I thought she was with you, type of thing. Which is, it plays a little bit better in the theater than in the previews. But then there's like, the whole movie is this kind of dour, kind of, dark kind of soundtrack. She shows up and it's like this electric guitar or harp or something. It's like, and it just, I was like, holy crap, I got goosebumps because it just sets the whole attitude of that character, and she hit it right on. But kind of going back to that, what you said, I think Warner Brothers wants to rush this, and part of me during the movie, because this was supposed to be Superman 2. I mean, it was, supposed to be Man of Steel 2. And it was very rushed as far as why Batman wants to beat up Superman. And I feel like at some point about, before they started post-production, they was like, why don't we just make Bruce Wayne mad about his building falling? And they were like, oh, then we could do a Superman Batman movie. Because I feel like they almost shot this as a Superman movie and then went back and was like, let's just start adding things. And I think that's almost where the bad cuts come from. Like, it's almost like they shot a Superman movie and then they decide, we want Batman in it. And then they had all those weird cuts. And they're not necessarily bad shot scenes. Like, they're not bad cinematography type stuff. Like, all the scenes are set up nice and stuff like that. Some of the CGI is, kind of iffy. But it's just cut so weird. It's just very incoherent. And that's part of the, it kind of takes you out because they don't spend too much time on, it's just, oh, here's a Superman scene. Okay. Oh, here's a Batman scene. Oh, here's a Lex Luthor scene. And it's just, it's very much like a puzzle that they start, kind of rearranging right in front of you. It's very weird. And you'll have to see it to kind of get what I'm kind of telling you, but it's just a very weirdly cut and it's very incoherent.
Yeah, I saw the reviews, and there's a lot of sites that I trust as far as, like, I'll read IGN reviews, or not actually read them. A lot of times I just scroll the bottom and see what the score they gave them and see what the high points and low points are of the movie. And probably 9 times out of 10, I agree with a lot of the stuff that they put out. And I did the same thing for this one. I think they gave it. They may have gave 6.5, I think. So
in the sevens for IGN. That was the highest review I saw, was like a 7.5 or 2 or something that they gave it.
Oh, really? Well, that may have been somebody else reviewing. I thought it was a 6.5, but I looked at it and I was like, then the high points was Bruce Wayne, Gal Gadot. There was a couple other in there, and so, but just seeing the score, they had it rated as good, and that can go either way, but it didn't boost my enthusiasm to see it any. And I went back and after it come out after this weekend, and I know this isn't a measure of how good or bad a movie is, because there's a lot of bad movies on, like, Rotten Tomatoes, or that are ranked really high, and there's a lot of good movies that are, but for the most part, there's a pretty good mixture. But, like, it's got a 29 rating. That is rough. Man of Steel was rated 55, because I went back and looked earlier, and then I went back and looked over on the Marvel universe, and I think the lowest one is a 66, and I think that was the second Thor movie. Right. And I was like, Marvel has built this solid universe. Everything fits really well. They just know how to do everything so well, and they don't rush. It don't matter. I loved Thor 2. I loved a lot of the backstory, a lot of the time they spent in Asgard, and I liked it more than the first one. So, I don't always agree with those, but I find a lot of truth in a lot of those as well. If you can kind of go into it, with an open mind. But, being rated as a 29, I was like, that's rough. I don't, I know it's going to make $1 billion just because it's Batman and Superman. That sells it. But in the long run, I think it's hard to keep pushing a franchise if you keep getting these low marks. And I don't think Batman will. I think Batman, they'll probably knock it out of the park. And hopefully, this is just their jumping off point. But I was really disappointed in the effort that they put forth for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's very mediocre. It's Shauna just got bored with it. I'll be quite frank. I mean, if you're a comic book fan, I think you will enjoy it much. I think the two things you see is either it's the worst movie ever made or it's the best superhero movie ever made, and neither one of them are true. I think it falls somewhere in the middle. As far as my opinion of the film, I think it's cool to see those three on the screen. Like I said, I think that's even it's worth a matinee prize to go see. There are some cool things they try. Just this is going to be a big spoiler, so if you don't want to listen to it, pause it for a second. But the Flash actually shows up. Not only there's like a case file that Bruce Wayne gets, and it shows Aquaman and Cyborg and Flash and Wonder Woman. That's besides the point. Bruce Wayne's kind of setting back, and it's right after Bruce kind of if you haven't seen the movie, in the preview, it's that desert scene where Superman comes down like this bottom, kind of like this cellar type place, and he jerks, Batman's cowl off. It's obviously like a future kind of, this could possibly happen if certain things fall into place. During that, right after that scene happens, Bruce Wayne kind of wakes up, and Flash is kind of coming out of the Speed Force, very much like Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like he's on the cosmic treadmill and he's trying to warn somebody. He says, Lois Lane's the key and all this stuff, and then he kind of warps back in, but he's struggling to kind of stay there. And if you ever I'm not going to explain Crisis on Infinite Earths, but basically Flash is a big hero there. He goes back and warns the heroes of this big thing that's happening, and ends up dying in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Spoiler, if you haven't read the 30-year-old story. But I thought that was a very cool nod, because at that point I was like, boy, they're really throwing some stuff in here. Like, they're really laying the groundwork for some stuff. So I think if you're I don't think the casual moviegoer will go. I think you can be a casual movie fan and go see Marvel films and absolutely love them. This isn't that movie. It's just isn't. If you don't care about DC Comics, you don't read DC Comics, I would heavily recommend either go with someone that has and is excited about it, or don't go at all, because it lost Shauna. Shauna loves the Marvel movies, but it completely lost her. Like, it was, even at some point I was like, I don't even know what they're doing here. Like, and I'm a comic book fan. But it's kind of boring. It's, like I said, it's very mediocre. And I hated that. I kind of lowered my expectations for it. And I walked in and I saw it, and I walked out and I thought, I don't even know what I just saw. Like, I can't, it was okay. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. It was just mediocre.
I was going to ask you a question. I can't even think of it now. It was something that had to do with the movies, but
and if you don't like Zack Snyder, don't go see the movie. I get so tired of these people crapping on Zack Snyder. And I don't think it's completely his fault. I think the blame could go around in this movie for it being mediocre. But the David Goyer's script, and he wrote it with someone else, but I blame David Goyer. That script was terrible. It's just a bad script. You could tell it was a mess from the beginning as far as the cuts go. I don't know how much he has to say with the cuts. But if you don't like Zack Snyder, it's a dark movie. Don't go see it. Like, if you're gonna go see it and complain that you hate Zack Snyder, don't go see it. Just leave it alone, because you're getting a dark Zack Snyder movie, because that's what DC wanted. And if I was looking to make a dark superhero movie, let me tell you who's on first on my speed dial: Zack Snyder.
What I was going to ask you, I think it made $460 million. All right, and that's through this weekend, which is huge. But
and that's both domestic and international, right?
Yeah. I think so. So, how much more is it going to make, though? That's my question. Star Wars, $2 billion.
Yeah.
They with that and the merchandising, they've already paid George Lucas back.
Yeah.
Because I think they paid $4 million. So after everything Blu-ray sales, they'll be above and beyond. But Star Wars, people went back and saw it 4, 5, 6 times. This movie, are people even going to go back to watch it twice? Or after word of mouth from the first movie, is it going to drop to like maybe 100 million next week, and then after that it might be like 50, and then just that huge decline? Because I think Man of Steel did the same thing until it was released in China and other places. That it kind of like the Transformers movies. Yeah, I think or Terminator. I think it made like 50 million the first week here, and then after that it was down to like 8 or 10 or something. But once it was released in China, boom, it grossed over 450 million. So now we're liable to see another one.
Right. They've made enough money even domestically. I think that they could, I don't think they're going to abandon it. We talked about that a little bit, that they were panicking if this was going to be actually, the way we talked about it, I think the way that you said it was that they want it to be a good movie. Like, they want to be rated critically better.
Yeah, I think they did. And they also, I read an article, and it was talking about, that one of the executives or somebody at Warner Brothers said, we want to make $1 billion. If this doesn't make $1 billion, we'll be disappointed. I don't know if
But
it's
it's
going
not
to
going to
get
get there.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a huge drop off, especially after word of mouth. And, you get some little kids in there. I mean, it is PG-13, but,
I wouldn't
pe-
recommend. Let's
people
just get
took their
back to
kids
that
to
now.
see
I wouldn't
Daredevil,
recommend you going to
not
see this
Daredevil.
movie with your kids. I mean,
People
there
took
it
their
is
kids
a
to see
very
Deadpool.
dark tone, a lot of language, a little bit more language than I thought was going to be in it. It's violent. I wouldn't take my kids to go see it.
Right. But, I mean, people took their kids to see Deadpool, so what do you
That's
expect?
true, but those people are stupid. No
Right.
offense. If you
But
took your kid to Deadpool, I'm just going to tell you, you're just dumb.
But so after word of mouth gets out, I bet there'll be a huge drop off. If they hit 100 million next week, they'll be doing good. Unless it's in some other country, I don't expect it to even get close in America to where it hit this week.
And it sucks, man. I really want it to be good. I can't wait to see Affleck in a Batman movie. I mean, I think that's probably what really comes out of this Shining, the Wonder Woman movie. Just to hit on a couple of things that some reviewers have said, and then we'll kind of jump off topic. Jesse Eisenberg's performance, I had really high hopes for. I didn't like it after thinking about it a lot. His Lex Luthor is very almost a mixture of Joker and Riddler. It was very, very weird. He was very kind of, I mean, he chewed scenery, which is okay because I really liked what's his name played Lex Luthor in the last not the last Superman movie, but the one before that. Plays in
In
House of Cards,
Hackman.
which is Kevin Spacey.
Oh, Kevin
Um,
Spacey, yeah.
I love Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. I thought he chewed scenery, but he was like this guy. I was like, I could beat you up if I wanted to, or I'll just shoot you in the head if I want to. He was very imposing and very threatening. Jesse Eisenberg's character was almost a Jokerish kind of Riddler character, and it just didn't come off very well. I've seen people like, "Oh, it's the best DC universe villain ever." No, he lost it. He lost about halfway through the movie. He was okay up till about halfway, and then I thought, man, like this is terrible. Like this is like it went downhill fast. Like somebody just pushed him off a cliff. It just wasn't very good. Um, a lot of the a lot of the Jesus imagery was a little bit, well, not a little bit. I mean, it was overboard. And there were some scenes where, they did a lot in Man of Steel, but there was one where he saves a girl in Guatemala or wherever he flew to, and they all bow to him and try to touch the hem of his cape. There's one where he's up in the sky with the heavenly sun around him, and there's a woman reaching her hand out to him. There was even one near in the last scene. I'm not going to tell you kind of what happens because I don't want to spoil it too as far as the ending goes, because I was kind of surprised. The ending did kind of surprise me. During the battle, there's like you could see very visibly 3 crosses in the background while Superman's getting the crap kicked out of him. I mean, it's just, and I understand that Superman has always had this kind of savior complex, and the best writers can kind of manage that. Hey, he's a farm boy that struggles with being the last son of Krypton, and people look at him as a god, but he's really not a god. He's just a guy that is the last of his kind. He's trying to have this wholesome kind of farm boy attitude about things. Like Grant Morrison does a really good job with that. He either makes him this kind of godlike character, which is okay, or he makes him a farm boy. I think that who else does it really well? Jeff Loeb does it really well. A good kind of balance there. It was almost a little bit unnerving. To be quite honest, it was a little bit. It was just a little bit overboard. I really did think it was overboard. Like I said, I don't know if what they're doing. Even the very end was a little bit, especially releasing this on Easter Sunday, I thought was, if this was released in June and they did it, I would say it was, well, they're just kind of doing some imagery here, but it almost came off like they wanted to be controversial. And it didn't even come off as that. It just came off as like, come on, guys, really? I mean, you're a little bit heavy-handed here on that. Other than that, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's mediocre. Go see it. If you're a big comic book fan. If you're not, I wouldn't mess with it. It's disappointing. I think there's some good stuff there, but sets up some stuff, but it's very disjointed. The way it's cut, the director, Snyder just, I think he dropped the ball on some action scenes. The CGI there's some really bad CGI at times. So, yeah, it's just mediocre, unfortunately. Jared, you got anything else on that?
No, I mean, of course, I didn't see it. I read a lot of reviews, and a lot of people, pretty much the same things you're saying. You know, Affleck good, Wonder Woman, was her character was solid. Story was, very disjointed and hard to follow, and just didn't flow really well. Some of the CG took some people out of the movie. Um,
Doomsday actually looked pretty good. I know some people complained about Doomsday. Doomsday wasn't the bad CGI. There was just some times where you could tell it was a CGI background. One
yeah,
in particular was when Lex Luthor walked in. He walks into the Kryptonian ship that was in the first Superman movie, and it just looks bad. Like it looks like 2005 CGI. Like it just looks bad. You can tell he's not there. And I think this goes back to sometimes spend a little bit extra money and build a set. Like build just that part of the set to make it look better. There was one where Superman saves Lois Lane, which is an ever kind of thing going on through here, through the whole movie. And he flies in, and you could tell it was a green screen in the background because it did that. When he landed, you could tell it was a set, but while he was flying, obviously he's CG while he's flying, but you could tell there was like a disconnect with the screen. Like when he landed on the ground, there was like a little bit of a jerk or something. And I was like, holy crap. Like, how do you let that get through? Like I know you did reshoots for this movie. Every movie goes through reshoots, especially action movies. Why didn't you reshoot that? Because that looked terrible. There was some stuff there. I mean, it's just a mediocre average movie. It sucks, but hopefully this leads into some other things, and it gets better as it goes along.
That's their bet. If Batman fails, then I don't know how much further they could carry this.
I don't think they can. If Batman fails, I mean, people can talk about Superman being DC's shining light or whatever, but Batman sells. Batman is what puts butts in the seats.
Before we get Batman, aren't we getting? Was it either Aquaman or Wonder Woman? I think it's Aquaman.
I think it's Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman, then either Wonder Woman or Batman. So you can kind of
Wonder Woman's next.
Aquaman could be hit or miss, but with the Wonder Woman Batman stuff, you have to knock it out of the park for them to continue, or if it is just going to be a huge disaster.
I read an interview. The director of Aquaman was like, "Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted." And then you look at how they, the design for Jason Momoa, there ain't a lot harder about that dude. Like he looks like if I looked at him the wrong way, he'd impale me. It's just. I don't know how they're going to do that light-hearted.
It should be a violent action movie. I mean, that guy, he's intimidating.
Dolphins or something. He ain't Aquaman. That's all I'm saying. I mean, they already took the orange shirt away. What else? I mean,
He doesn't look like he should be talking to dolphins.
No, not at all. Not at all. He should be like,
He should be stabbing dolphins and eating.
And barbecuing dolphins.
Get under the sea.
And then the question's like, how's he barbecuing under the sea?
He's using the thermal heat vents.
There you go. Okay, so that's enough for Superman Batman. Like I said, go see it in the matinee or wait for it on Blu-ray, but don't spend $10-12 on it at an evening show. If you're a comic book fan, go see a matinee. If not, then just hold off. Well, in the show here is we got a little bit more time left, so we're going to talk about WrestleMania, which we'll talk about probably more next week. Well, actually.
WrestleMania is next week.
It'll probably be the next week after that. Looking at the card, this card isn't anything amazing. They've had a lot of injuries. Again, the push of Roman Reigns I've said I like Roman Reigns as far as an athlete. He works better matches than he did when they first tried to push him, but his push has failed again. So much, and if Triple H thinks that, he's not going to get cheered when he walks out at WrestleMania, he's going to be sorely disappointed when he's basically the face of that match. So let's run down the card right quick, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. Really, I think the best show is going to happen Friday.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah, April the 1st. It's a late start because it is in Dallas, so it starts about 10 p.m. Eastern time. Excuse me. You're looking at the NXT TakeOver event. A lot of really good matches on this card. Austin Aries making his debut, his in-ring debut as far as action versus Baron Corbin. Some people crap on Baron Corbin, but he's actually a pretty decent big man. He has a terrible gimmick, but he's actually pretty athletic for a big man. NXT Tag Team Championship, the Revival, which is the champions, which reminds me of Jared. I don't know if we saw those guys or not, but they remind me of Arn and Tully.
Okay. No, I actually haven't had a chance to see him yet.
Very old school top tag team. I think every time I look at them, I mean, Jared would love these guys because they are very.
I love the '80s NWA tag teams. You can't
Then
get
they
any
and
better than that.
that's what their name is, the Revival. They're kind of
Yeah.
a very old school, kind of rough and rugged kind of tag team. It just works. It's really good. They're facing American Alpha, which is Chad Gable and I can't remember. It's Jordan. His last name's Jordan. Really good tag team. Almost like very kind of Kurt Angle type, kind of like Charlie Haas and Benjamin.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
World's
say.
greatest
World's
tag team.
greatest tag team.
Yeah, very good tag team. Apollo Crews versus Elias Sampson. Elias Sampson is the worst gimmick I have seen since the Boogeyman. He's like this drifter musician guy. I mean, I hope that what I hope is that he comes in, Apollo Crews completely destroys him, and they send this guy back because he seems to be pretty athletic. He needs a new gimmick. So I hope he comes out, Apollo Crews completely destroys him, wipes the floor with him, and then they bring him back as another gimmick.
It's hard to rebrand somebody once you've already put them out there.
That's true.
I was listening to who was it? It was Jim Cornette, or no, I think it was Kevin Sullivan and I can't remember the other guy's name. They do a podcast together where they kind of go through all the they go through the WCW years, and he talks to Kevin Sullivan about backstage stuff and everything. And Kevin Sullivan said that's the hardest thing in the world to do is once you introduce somebody is to rebrand them. And he's like, it's almost better just to fire that person and to bring in somebody new because it is hard to get over something different. Once the fans already know that that's who they are, just like, you couldn't rebrand Bray Wyatt. He's not going to come out with a different name. No. Everybody will know he's always Bray Wyatt. Or, God, who's a really bad gimmick right now? Well, let me pick one that's good. I mean, it's hard to do because the fans are so smart now. They already know. You might as well just bring in somebody else. So I kind of feel sorry for that guy.
Examples of because he used to be Husky Harris and he completely changed everything. I remember for a week there was Husky Harris chants, and then after everybody was like, no, this ain't Husky Harris. And he completely, but he did a 180 like. That character is nothing like Husky Harris was.
Yeah, his hair changed. What he wore changed. You completely have to revamp somebody to get him over. And best thing to do, take him off TV for 6 months, let him train, and then bring him back. Under a mask or anything better than what they already have.
Then we got Sami Zayn, of course, one of the big signings from Japan, Shinsuke Nakamura. That should be a really, really good match. Of course, Sami Zayn, the former El Generico, and he is he's on fire right now. People love him. He's been called up to the Raw roster. This is probably his last NXT match, I would think, and that should be a really, really good matchup. We got the NXT Women's Championship, Bayley and Asuka, which should be a really good one. Women's wrestling in NXT is awesome. And then, of course, the championship match, Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. Their last match was stinking awesome. The matches between Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe is probably some of the best matches I've seen in 5 years. Just really, really good matches on Indie or WBE. I mean, they're just really, really good matches. It's a stacked card, Jared. I mean, that's a really, really good wrestling card.
I want to make a couple points. Austin Aries, I hope he kicks Baron Corbin in the head because there is nobody who kicks louder than Austin Aries. I mean, I know it, it's not real, but guy, it sounds like a shotgun going off sometimes. And I hope, they don't change his move set or anything. Sami Zayn, you said it could be his last NXT match. Hopefully it's Shinsuke Nakamura's last NXT match as well, because I love him. I saw him wrestle. God, who did he?
AJ?
No, it wasn't AJ. It was at last year's. I'm totally going brain dead. Anyways, last year's event for New Year's. Not the one where he wrestled AJ, but he wrestled somebody else. And I listened to JR do the calls for it. That match was phenomenal. From then on, I was trying to watch as much stuff as I could. Learn about him. He is an amazing athlete. He's probably one of the most charismatic people you could ever put on the roster. It'll be interesting to see if they let him just be himself. And, Sami Zayn, he's probably maybe the top babyface worker in WWE right now. He should get a monster push moving up. And then, Finn Balor, it may be his last NXT match as well. I could see Samoa Joe winning, and then Gallows and Anderson show up, and you have the Balor Club, and immediately go to Raw, the Monday after WrestleMania. Or he could lose clean, and then he show up Monday night on Raw with the Balor Club. So, it's kind of exciting. You just don't know what's going to happen in NXT, and that's always a good thing. It's kind of like watching an old ECW pay-per-view or WCW from the mid to late 80s. It's something that they, everything is so over the top produced with reality TV now. This is just kind of some solid entertainment when people thought wrestling was real.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched every NXT. I watched the pay-per-views because those are just been fantastic. I don't think there's been a bad pay-per-view or bad like major show like one of the takeover shows they've put on. The one in England last time was fantastic. That was the last Samoa Joe and Finn Balor match. But I do see Finn Balor dropping the belt, and I think that you will see either the Balor Club or they've also done the Bulletproof thing. There's a name going around that Bulletproof, and he's been kind of hashtagging it. So that may be something with Carl Anderson and Gallows coming in. Whatever it is, I think we're on the verge of a very exciting time if WB doesn't mess it up. I mean, this is probably the best wrestling roster that they've ever had. And that's including Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, when they held the belts and they had some guys. Evan Bourne was there, Kofi Kingston was really putting on some quality matches. But this, I mean, you look at that roster and you look and see who's, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, you've got all these guys up there, and then you throw in guys like Aries and Sami Zayn and Finn Balor and Samoa Joe, and then you got AJ Styles and Chris Jericho still, heavy workload and good workload. This may be the best pure wrestling roster since they had Angle and Guerrero and the world's greatest tag team and, Chris Benoit and all those guys. I mean, you look at that roster, and that's just a really good wrestling roster.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is most of it's been stolen from other promotions.
Oh, yeah.
Hardly any of it is WWE, raised and grown. They've kind of plundered all these other promotions, and it's kind of sad to see because WWE wants their type of matches and all this stuff, where everywhere else they're like, go out and do your thing and cut loose and have these awesome matches. So maybe they'll do that. Maybe they won't. But it's solid. There are so many great people there that you just hope that they can bring it back to the product that it was in the late 90s. Even though the matches were awful, but it was must see TV. If they had, oh, you got to go watch this match, then that's something that I would look forward to.
Yeah, I think as far as the pay-per-view goes, I think they're really kind of opening up, letting these guys kind of go at it. Raw's 3 hours. They still don't know how to book 3 hours worth of matches. They don't know how to book a 3-hour show. I mean, it's just Raw is most of the time, I say probably 3/4 of the show a year, or it's just a slog to get through. Unless it's WrestleMania, lead up to Rumble, WrestleMania, or SummerSlam. They should just let these guys wrestle. But I think you'd be really surprised if you watch more of the pay-per-views. The quality of those matches are really good. And you got to kind of, as much as some people hate Triple H, he's done a really good job of bringing in indie talent and letting them kind of do their thing while developing a character. And I think he's been very smart about not rushing guys up. Like he's like, look, NXT is the hottest thing around right now. People want to come to NXT. I'm not going to bring you up till I get an idea for you. And that's where WB really kind of struggled with some of the indie guys is we're just going to bring you up and we're just going to kind of let you float out there. And if you get over, you get over. If you don't, we release you and you can go back to the indies. I think Triple H deserves a lot of the credit, whether you love him or you hate him. I think he's kind of understanding what kind of product people want, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. But at least on pay-per-views. Raws are still terrible, but pay-per-views are actually really good.
Triple H understands it But the key
Yeah.
is Vince still doesn't understand it.
No, Vince doesn't understand anything at all.
And the thing is, I've read stuff where, a lot of the people backstage, Vince will come out and say, "Oh yeah, NXT is great and all this," but coming down to it, he don't watch it and he still don't understand it.
Nope.
His thing is Raw, and the WWE main roster, and so they're great on NXT, but just like the Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt, God, he could have been champion. You could have had a stable there with the champion and the tag team champion, and that would have been amazing.
Yep.
Probably a good 6 month run with it. And Bray Wyatt is an amazing character, and the whole Wyatt family, they've turned into a solid stable of workers. But what have they done with them? Because Vince always has the final say, and if somebody doesn't get over. Well, their gimmick's over, but they don't keep putting that person over. It's got to go back on the head man.
Yeah, Vince, I mean, it's been thread, throughout the dirt sheets and pretty much understood that he has the final say. I think Triple H, once he gets a hold of the actual company and he's running it day to day, I think we'll start seeing a little bit more of a pure wrestling show to a certain extent. And I'm not saying, it will be perfect, but I think Triple H understands I think he'll understand the show that people want to see with the talent, but also the creative end of it. And you may hate Triple H, but he's done a really good job with this young talent and really kind of just, hey, you're El Generico, but be Sami Zayn and go be El Generico. Try to find your own personality. And I think it works. And he's done a really good job with a lot of those guys, a lot of those talents. We're not even to WrestleMania yet, but let's run down the WrestleMania card right quick. We've got obviously the standard rumored multi-divas tag team match. Everybody wants to see that. And then you got the AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho match that's been rumored. We don't know if, just to clarify, there is a kickoff show at 5 p.m. on USA, which is pretty cool of them to put that on for free. Rumor has it it's going to have 3 matches. One of those is the 3rd annual Honor the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And then there's 2 more matches. Probably say the Divas match will either be on the pre-show or right before the pay-per-view or right before the main event. Usually is where they slot those things. AJ and Jericho better make the main card. Then you've got, of course, Sami Zayn pulling double duty. You've got the Intercontinental title ladder match. Champion Kevin Owens defends against Zack Ryder, Dolph Ziggler, Sami Zayn, Stardust, The Miz, and Sin Cara. Really, the only ones that have any chance of winning that is probably Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So none of those guys are walking out.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and run down, and then I'll.
You got the United States Championship match, Kalisto and Ryback. I love Kalisto. Ryback just needs to go away. You've got the battle for tag team, which this was supposed to be a tag team title match, and I don't know if WB doesn't like the tag team titles being defended on WrestleMania or what. But the New Day, which is probably the most over tag team they've had in years, will go up against the League of Nations, the 3-on-4 handicap match. Rumor had it was supposed to be for the titles. I don't know if it's for the titles anymore. There's been rumors that it's just going to be a handicap match, which tells me if that's the case, that may be one of the pre-show matches. I don't know if it'll make the main card or not, but that's kind of sucks for the New Day because the New Day is kind of hilarious. They're really good workers, really good tag team. It just sucks that I hope they get to defend on the main card. You got the Dudley Boys versus the Usos, another pre-show nominee. You've got Hell, and then we get into more of the main events. Hell in a Cell, Shane McMahon versus Undertaker. Shane wins. He controls Raw. Undertaker loses. He has to retire. No holds barred street fight. You've got Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar. You've got the Divas Championship match, which should be really good with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks if they get enough time to do it. And of course, the main event, Triple H comes in as champion versus Roman Reigns. Jared, what matches you love? What matches you hate?
The Jericho, the Jericho AJ match should be on the main card. I think they will just because how huge AJ's turned out for them. The Intercontinental ladder match, I really love that. I think my thoughts, if they would let Ziggler or somebody win it, it'd be great. That's not going to happen. It'd be nice to see Zayn cost Owens that and kind of give the title to somebody else. But it'll probably be Owens or Zayn, and they'll probably battle over it. It'll come down to those two. That's a huge feud anyway. Same Kalisto and Ryback. Oh, gosh, yeah, I have your same feelings that Ryback should go away, but he's here to stay. So he'll probably beat Kalisto. The battle for tag team supremacy. I've watched very little of anything, but I've watched some of the New Day stuff, and they are spectacular.
They're awesome, man.
Don't bury them on the pre-show. People want to see them. So, the Dudley Boys and the Usos,
I've heard that could be a table match because the whole premise is that the Dudleys are like, no more tables. We're going to be the mean Dudleys or whatever. I've heard it's a table match. It hasn't been billed as a table match yet, so I don't know. If it's just a regular tag match, it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, but the Dudley Boys still get cheers. The Usos they don't know what to do with them really. Right now. Yeah, they just shove them down their throat. The Battle Royal, I think, should be on the main card. Andre the Giant was a staple of WrestleMania. He put Hogan over WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4. He was there. Without him, the WWE might not have been where it got. And that was kind of something special, especially when Cesaro won it. It was a big moment. I think it should be on the main card. Shane McMahon, Undertaker, I heard was headlining WrestleMania.
Really? Over the WWE title match?
Yep, that's just
Vince's rules.
That's what I heard, though. I mean, it is the Undertaker and Shane McMahon, and Vince will probably be involved. So, Vince wants to be in the main event.
Of course he does, because he's Vince McMahon.
And plus, you got to think, they're going to raise and lower that cage. So they could, I don't know if it's going to be constructed or if they're just going to lower it right there at the end. However they do it, I think it should be the main event because it may be a better match than a championship match.
Yes.
But I see interference happening there.
So here's a question for you. Over under, how many bones does Shane McMahon break?
He's kind of old, so
he has to be a little bit more brittle than what he used to be.
He could break 3 or 4 and still keep going, but I don't think he'll take as many risks this time. It probably won't be jumping off the top of the cage. Of course, you never know. He's a Daredevil. If it's WrestleMania, I don't know if he's ever been in a match this big at WrestleMania, so he may jump off the top of the big jumbo TV at Dallas Stadium. Who knows with Shane McMahon? The no holds barred street fight, man, that should be an amazing match.
That should be really, really good. That if you want a match that's going to make you hurt,
yeah,
Dean Ambrose, man, over under if he even survives that match. Like, I mean, Brock's just going to throw him around. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, but Ambrose is so over. I think he'll give Brock a war.
Do you think they'll put him over? Do you think they'll put him over Brock?
They won't put him over, but I think they'll let him get in his stuff, to make it look like it's a battle. They should, though. Ambrose should be the top guy in the company right now anyway.
He should be. He's super over. He's been over for 2 years. Yeah,
the Divas Championship, like you said, if they gave him time, it could be an amazing match. They could give him 5 minutes, and it'd be awful. The WWE Heavyweight Championship match, everybody hates Reigns, and this is WWE's problem. Same thing they did with John Cena. People turned on him. They keep shoving him down your throat. It doesn't matter. I've heard they've got Roman Reigns penciled in, possibly headlining for the next 2 or 3 WrestleManias through like 2019. So, he's going to be at the top. They've got him penciled in there. It's going to be hard to change Vince's mind unless Triple H comes along or he gets hurt or something, but he's going to be a staple, and not that he's a bad guy or anything, but he just we've talked about it before. It's just his character. Let him do something a little different. Get him out of the Shield uniform. Let him be his own person, develop his own character, just like The Rock and everybody else had to do to make him more interesting to the fans. Don't shove him down their throat. Let him be somebody you either want to like or you want to hate. Don't make the fans hate him and still put him over as your top babyface.
Yeah, I think that I think that match will be good. I don't. Like I said, I think that obviously Triple H is. I don't know if he's a top 10 worker of all time, but he's definitely in that top 25 type worker. There's an argument to be made that he just got the chance to work with a lot of really good people, but Triple H knows his way around the ring. He's put on some great matches, worked with some great guys. I think that'll be a good match. Roman Reigns is a good worker. I think he's a much better worker than when they started pushing Cena. I think he can work a couple different styles. As far as what kind of match he's wrestled with Daniel Bryan, he's wrestled with Cena. I mean, he's wrestled with a lot of different guys, and he can keep up with guys. So I think it'll be a good match. It's just I don't think the atmosphere is going to be very good unless they bring somebody out, like it's supposed to be a big reveal or something like that. I think it'll get crapped on pretty heavily, and that sucks for Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns can be a superstar, but WB's booking just kind of screwed him over, and I don't think he can come back from that unless they're going to turn him just straight heel. So,
yeah, and I don't know if you want to follow an Undertaker match at WrestleMania because after the fans get into Undertaker, especially if there's a bunch of high spots planned for that match, that crowd will be dead, and they will hate on both of them. I mean, they'll cheer Triple H, but they will absolutely hate Roman Reigns. There was it was a pay-per-view. I can't remember which one it was.
Remember WrestleMania 18 that Chris Jericho begged Vince to put Rock and Hogan at the top because he knew his match would get buried because nobody would care after that.
Yeah, and I think there was one. I was reading about it. It may have been when Punk and Bryan had one of them. I can't remember if it's Punk and Bryan or one of the other matches, but then they had John Cena and Randy Orton, maybe in at one of the Royal Rumbles. Then John Cena and Randy Orton on there, and the fans hated on it. They were yelling and screaming and cheering for Daniel. I think it was a Royal Rumble. They were cheering for Daniel Bryan. They were cheering for CM Punk. They just didn't want to see those two because in like a span of, I think it was 3 years that those two had headlined 18 pay-per-views together, and like 16 of those were in singles matches. So why would you want to see them again in the same, so the fans will hate all over it. So hopefully that won't happen, but the WWE fans are starting to get very vocal and starting to be very outgoing at what they do because they think they can get their way. And after Vince gave in with Daniel Bryan, it's hard to tell them no when they really want something.
Yeah, and that's kind of a double-edged sword, kind of. I mean, I understand you want to see it, but in the same sense, if you're WB, you got to kind of try to follow their storylines, and it could be a double-edged sword, and it could be good and bad on both ends. Sometimes I just wish the fans would step back and just enjoy the product a little bit. I've tried to, especially when it came to John Cena and Roman Reigns, I've kind of took myself out of being, me and you are smart fans. We know what's going on. We know what we want to see, booking and stuff. But over the last year or two, I've kind of took a step back and just kind of watched it and looked at the quality of the matches and stuff like that. And, the quality of the matches are way up. And if the fans, they've got to be a little bit careful because they got a lot of guys in there now that they could push and that they like watching. And with Triple H kind of backstage pushing for some of those guys to get more of some attention, you got to kind of watch what you do here. And a lot of times, I think what's happening, this is God's truth, I think Vince is a little bit bitter about the Daniel Bryan stuff. And I think Vince is pushing Roman Reigns because Vince wants to prove that that's his guy and he can still make a guy, and it's not working. And I think as a fan, sometimes you just need to take a step back and enjoy what you like, enjoy the AJ Styles, enjoy the Kevin Owens, and hope that they move up the card. I think the matches are much better than what they were. And I think as a fan, that's what I want to see. I want to see good wrestling matches. And, I hope that they continue to do it. But I think, if you're a smart fan out there and you're very vocal about it, kind of take a step back, watch it. You can hate what you hate, but really enjoy some of the really good matches, some of the really good talent that's on the roster now.
Let me throw something out there really quick before we get off the air. Next week is the season finale of The Walking Dead, going head-to-head with WrestleMania. Does it hurt their buy rates? Or because fans have the network now that they can just watch it anytime they want. They can watch it the next day. I mean, no problem. They could do the same thing with The Walking Dead, but which one would you rather have spoiled? The Walking Dead or WrestleMania? Personally, I would rather have WrestleMania spoiled and be able to watch The Walking Dead spoiler-free. So, that's a big thing now, getting what, like 9 million viewers, or I don't know, it's getting insane ratings.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's an interesting question. I never really thought about it in that kind of context. I don't watch The Walking Dead, so obviously I'll be watching WrestleMania. Jared watches The Walking Dead, and like he said, he'd probably watch The Walking Dead over WrestleMania, especially this year. I think if I'm WB, I kind of hope this card is
especially
really awesome, and
think about this though.
it kind of extends
Yeah.
past what people thought about it, and then maybe people start buying the network just to see that WrestleMania. I think it's probably the best thing. I think it's just choice wise. I think the majority of people probably watch The Walking Dead.
Because the Negan, I think he finally shows up next week. So, that's what people have been waiting for 2 years.
Yeah.
And, WWE Network, I can watch it anytime. The Walking Dead,
You can do it anytime, right?
yeah, exactly. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't think about it till just a minute ago. So
I don't watch The Walking Dead, but you'll have to keep me filled in with Negan because we're huge Negan fans. Like
oh my
Negan in the
gosh,
comics is probably one of the best villains of the past 10 years. I mean, he's just it's just so, when a character is so good that when the scenes come up with him and you get this sinking feeling, like, what is he going to do next? Like, if I turn this page, who is he killing next? Who is he maiming next? What is he going to do next? That is extraordinary in a comic book. I mean, it's just talking about him, I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps because he is one of my favorite villains over the past 10 years. The guy's just, I mean, you almost don't want to read it because of the anxiety of what he's going to do. And I hope they can bring that across on the show, because you've got not only one of the best comic book villains, now you're introducing probably one of the best TV villains we've seen in a long time.
And you know who's playing him, don't you?
Yeah, they are perfect casting.
Yeah,
Perfect.
when I read that, I got excited. I was like, you have the comedian. I was like, and that's kind of the way Negan is. He is
A
kind of
little
like
bit, right? Yep.
that sadistic sense of humor. It's just perfect, and I'm really excited about that. Of course, I can't watch it live, but so I have to wait till Monday anyway.
If you
So
don't know who we're talking about, I think is it Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
yes,
Okay, I always want to call him James Dean Morgan. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He actually plays Thomas Wayne in the Superman vs. Batman 2,
right,
which is
yeah,
really cool. He played Thomas Wayne, the comedian, now Negan. What else do you need in life? I mean, he's won comic book fans' hearts. I mean, all right. Well, Jerry, if you ain't got nothing else, man, we'll wrap this up. Don't forget to visit us at monstersofgeek.com. Jared just put up a great piece on the NCAA wrestling tournament. Go check that out. Also, go check out Jenna did a piece on Peggy Carter, or Agent Carter, trying to get picked up for the next season, and why you should. 6 reasons why that show's pretty awesome. So go check that out. Also, before we get off the air, big shout out to our friend Travis Giles. He actually got his piece linked in a Wired.com article about the blue snaggletooth. Basically a Star Wars character that was accidentally made blue, and it was released, and it became like this legendary figure. I think Travis either got the original or has a reprint of it. He did the piece. It was way back when we first started, and I was noticing he was getting a lot of hits, and he's probably up to about 400 hits on that article.
wow,
Which is huge for us. And so I started tracing it back, and lo and behold, because Pop Funko is doing like a Loot Crate exclusive with these blue snaggletooth, and it kind of got back in the kind of the geek culture news, and somebody linked his article, and so big congratulations to him. I was stoked as just the editor-in-chief of this site, and I love seeing these guys get I like when they get pushed, because my stuff is like, it's okay. But everybody that writes, man, I love it when it gets picked up and gets spread around. So big ups to Travis for a great piece, and thanks for Wired and Reddit, where it kind of started out. And thanks for posting, everybody that read it. But man, it was pretty awesome. I was pretty stoked that day. So, but big shout out to Travis. Other than that, monstersgeek.com. Check us out on Twitter at Monsters of Geek. Subscribe on YouTube. We may be doing a WrestleMania stream. As far as we won't be showing it. We'll be maybe talking about it. We haven't really discussed it yet, but we may be doing that. But subscribe on YouTube as well. Go check us out on Facebook, Monsters of Geek blog. So yeah, so that's it for episode 7. Jared, thanks for hanging out with us, and hopefully Joe and Andrew will be jumping back on next week. But for Jared, I'm Aaron, and we're out.